and welcome to the garden. So today I am out here. I've got a couple projects to do. One of them is kind of sad, and that is to remove these zinnias. So they have been really gorgeous. They're really pretty little small zinnia, the lily put zinnias. They've had these gorgeous little flower heads, but they're covered in powdery mildew, and so they have to come out, which is kind of sad. It's gonna make room for some fall things, but always hard to let them go. I'm gonna just try to salvage them and make as much of a bouquet as I can for inside, so at least I get to enjoy them just a little bit longer, because it is really hard to pull them all out. But it will make room for some fall things, and I do also have to plant out some of the peas that I got started inside, so I'll show you those. But first, we're going to take care of these. It's not uncommon for my zinnias to get powdery mildew. Typically it starts off and it's not too bad, but once it gets to a point like this, I just don't need that in my garden. And I do have still some peppers that are growing here and doing really well, and so I want everything else around them to stay healthy. So, you know, it's best to just go ahead and pull them out. Now, I do, as I said, still have the peppers growing in here. There's a poblano, a jalapeno, a gypsy pepper, and I also started to plant in a few things for fall, which I'll kind of show you how those are doing. So pulling these will definitely open up room for those fall plantings, but in order to not damage everything that's growing underneath and around them, I'm just going to snip off right at the base of the plant. That way I don't actually disrupt the soil or anything, so I'm going to try to avoid hurting the roots systems in any way of any of the plants that are growing still, or even just pulling out. I'll just leave these roots right in the soil. And typically what I do is I just kind of let those root systems stay in the soil all through the winter. I don't really worry about pulling them out until like the spring. So I let them stay in the soil. They can compost and decompose. The earthworms can feed on them, and they can just kind of give back some of their nutrients to the soil. And then if there's like any really big roots or big stalks, when I go in the spring and like amend the beds and get them ready for like full summer planting, I'll pull out any like super big, you know, big disruptive root systems that are still in there. So I actually found a few peppers that these are the Gypsy Peppers. They're just like a nice kind of sweet snacking pepper. But I hadn't even seen them in there. It's definitely opened up a lot of space, and I feel like now that I've got this space opened up, I do kind of need to clean up the whole bed a little bit. It's just looking, there's like a few, you know, dead branches in here. The zinnias were so wild that I never really got in here and like kept this bed tidy. So let me bring you down a little lower, and I'll try to show you what I'm doing over here. So I planted some kale down here at the bottom of this bed, and what I'm actually going to do is just prune up a little bit of some of these lower leaves. There's a low branch here on the pepper that's really too low to do much. I'm going to prune out anything like that that's just not super helpful, or like this leaf of this Swiss chard has fallen over. You know, we don't need that, and this will free up more space around where I planted the kale right here. When you're planting at a high density like I do, you really do need to do stuff like this to help maintain the health of everything. And when things start to get big and start to get wild, it's really easy to lose track of that maintenance. And being pregnant this summer with the heat and everything, I totally did. I let a lot of things go. I'm really gonna come in here and just clean this all up and get it all straightened up so you can actually even tell that there's two raised beds. I'm gonna get to work and try to get this sorted out. Okay, so it still looks a little chaotic, but we did get things cleaned up a bit. And I have the kales here and here, and those will start to take off now and get pretty big. Right in here, I seeded a little arugula. I mean, I planted it like underneath, you know, all those zinnias. So it did sprout, but it's not looking great. I may seed just a little bit more in that space over the next couple days, just to kind of help ensure that, you know, it takes off and everything. But other than that, I think it's good. And now you can kind of see the walkway, and there's a little bit of space. I tried to grow these Jackby little pumpkins. I tried to grow them on this trellis here, and they didn't really, I don't know, it didn't really happen. But I think I see one pumpkin coming, so that's kind of exciting. I may actually get a little pumpkin harvest, even if I get one, that's okay. All right, so now I'm just gonna plant out my peas. So here are all my pea seedlings. I started them in these little plug trays, and as you can see, they've come up with a nice little root system. These grew super fast indoors. They did really well, and I just don't feel like I can keep them inside any longer. So I'm gonna plant them out, and they're gonna go here on this trellis. Still need to clean up all the zinnias. Here on this trellis, and then also on the arch trellis. I'm gonna pop them in right along the sides here, and let them just grow up the arch trellis. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all those in the ground. All right, so we got the peas in here. There's a few over here, a few on the other side, and then I planted 3 at the base of each of these pillars in this trellis. These are definitely one that typically don't enjoy having their roots disrupted a lot, so I typically just direct sow them. But as I said in the video where I planted these out, or I started the seeds, you know, I'm just trying to do this to make it work this year, because I've had trouble getting them to germinate when it's too warm out, and then they get kind of spindly and they don't really take off well. But then I've also had trouble when I plant them too late, that they don't get going. So I'm trying to do the transplanted peas, and I will keep you posted on how it goes. I don't know. They grew a little faster than I expected, and so I'm planting them out actually earlier than I thought I was going to. And we're just kind of going with it, and we'll just see what happens. I'm gonna water them in really well. They're all in kind of part shade, so that's good. That will help. I am gonna go put a couple, let me grab them, a couple of stakes here in next to the peas that I put along the arch trellis, so that they have something to start growing up. If you don't get them growing on something quickly, I find that they kind of get matted and they have a hard time. I totally use string, but I just kind of feel like this morning this seems easier to just put a few. I'm gonna go get a couple more, a few sticks here along the base of the trellis, and that'll get them started. And then I actually still have some string left over with the mandevilla vines that are drying, so they should be able to just climb right into that and be perfect. Well, thank you for hanging out with me while I kind of get these chores done and get more fall garden things started. I'll keep you posted as we keep going along. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye-bye.